Hey, this is Mike Byrnes with another episode of Business Bests. My last recording was about online marketing and really, in particular, was focusing in on websites and went through a whole bunch of different things of how you would evaluate your website, assuming you have one. If you don't have one, it was good advice on how to create one, or different things you want to consider. One article that I wrote, which I think is important, was really related to trust and how you can get that across and how that is important to win clients or potentially lose clients. And I wanted to go through some of those elements on this recording. I wrote an article, and I have a copy of it here from the Investment and Wealth Institute. It was back, I got to look here. It was back in July, August 2024. It still carries a lot of weight. It's not outdated at all, but it was in the Investment and Wealth Monitor. Investments and Wealth Monitor is something that I think comes out every other week for financial advisors that belong to this association, if you're not familiar with it. And they had a theme that went with it, and so I tried to create a piece that would fit in it. And it actually took a lot of marketing, but it was actually kind of wrapping it up under trust. And so it's going to be an interesting topic we'll have today. The title of it is Earn a Prospect's Trust, Win a New Client. And one of the things that you have to consider, and I'll read this is in the first paragraph of the article, an advisor who never earns a prospect's trust never wins the client. And you see too often where a business has a prospect, they come in and they have no idea why they lost the business. Like they thought, the meeting went really well and just something fell through. You have to figure out how trustworthy you are, because that actually factors into whether they decide to work with you, especially if it's someone that's affluent, I should say. If it's someone that's affluent, they're going to want to have you make some big decisions. They're going to need to trust you to control their wealth and make different decisions. So you have to be very trustworthy. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if you could write down, if you had a little piece of paper, are you trustworthy? And almost everybody writes 10, right? So is that really the case? And as we go through this article and some of the points I made in it, maybe you could evaluate if you could improve. And I'm sure there's a nugget or two in here that will definitely make you consider some things that could make you appear to be more trustworthy. A little bit more on the importance of trust. When I've done focus groups, so sit around with my clients, top clients, and I ask them questions like, why did you pick my client? It's usually these three things, that they were trustworthy, that they were likable, or that they showed that they cared. And actually those kind of things somewhat are related. But trustworthy is usually, that I trusted the person, is usually number one. And so that's why I spent so much time talking about it. When you are doing this evaluation of yourself, you got to get a third-party person to evaluate you. So look at different things and give you some feedback on whether you can improve. And this is a hard one to look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm not a trustworthy person. If you are a person that stretches the truth, fudges a little bit here and there, get caught in a lie, but then lies on top of it to get out of it, stop doing it, right? Like there are times where maybe you have to tell a white lie, but I do see that certain people have qualities that are honesty. Like they carry themselves and they'll tell the truth, whether it's good or bad. Be careful in getting down that slippery slope. And I don't mean to go up on a soapbox, but hopefully I consider myself a trustworthy person. And so, my clients are going to have to take the good and bad with that, that characteristic. So get that third party that will evaluate you. As I go through some of these things, if you take notes, they can actually look at these things that I'm talking about. Believe it or not, you're initially going to be reviewed if you're trustworthy based on your first impression, which is usually online. So I've talked before about how Google coined the 0 moment of truth. And what that meant was you actually, in case you didn't see that recording, it was about when you encounter a product or service, you make an opinion on it. And so now, because of the online world, people are making opinions before they ever meet the person that they're going to potentially hire. And if that first impression online, the 0 moment of truth, isn't coming through and delivering what you need to do, you need to improve it. There are some ways that you can track to see if you're losing business online before you ever know about them, but it's hard, right? So one of the things in website marketing, for example, might be bounce rates. Like if people coming in and they're bouncing right out, you might know that you're getting a lot of traffic, which is good, but there's some disconnect where you're not getting them into the lead funnel, right? So we talked about best practices for trying to capture them. So assume you have those lead funnel types of best practices. Why are they bouncing out? What's wrong? What's that disconnect? I coined a term called the purchase decision spectrum years ago when I was talking about online and social media and how important it was. So we're kind of back in the 2008 days when I created Byrnes Consulting. And what a purchase decision spectrum means, where are you with your prospects and how sophisticated that decision is? What goes into it? How important it is? If it is a candy bar, it's an impulse decision, right? If it is something where you're making decisions on millions of dollars, that's going to take more time for that prospect to make the decision. They're going to do more research online. They're going to look at everything that they can. There are times where the industry that you're in might not be that trustworthy. If you're working for a really well-known name, what's the trustworthy rating there? If you have a company name that nobody knows, is there a trust issue there because they're not familiar with you, they've never heard of you? Just because you have a great brand name, right, doesn't mean that you're trustworthy, but it also, if you're a secret, how are people going to trust someone that's a secret? So if they're doing this research online and they're bouncing around and they're trying to figure out whether they trust you or not, if you say, trust me, what do you think happens? Is that something that is going to actually earn their trust? No. So we actually see messaging on websites and different social media pages sometimes that says, you can trust us or blah, blah, blah. Different wording kind of like that fits in that category. Take it down. It's junk, right? There are ways to earn trust without asking for it or touting that you're trustworthy, whatever it might be. And I think you can do an honest assessment if that type of wording exists on your website. So now, in that 0 moment of truth, are you trustworthy? So let's start first with your website. As a visual person, when I go into a website, I kind of can make an assumption if that firm is trustworthy right before I even dive in, right? I don't need to read a word to believe that this is a reputable website. So the website has to look good, it has to be functional, those types of things. So before you even get into the words, if I'm visual, your imagery is super important. So if I've said it again and I'll say it over and over, humans want to work with humans. If I can see who I'm going to work with, that is going to carry way more weight, right? If I can see that it's a trustworthy looking group just from kind of an up and down, and this is where the argument can be made that professional photos are important on your website. But if I also can see the personal photos of somebody, I start to know who they are behind the scenes, what they're like outside the office, that can carry a lot of weight. The person that's overly boastful in their imagery, be careful of that, because you can start to get to have that image and people that are kind of at the top of the world, we're kind of cynical people, like we don't necessarily trust that person. So figure out what your website imagery can be, because that's going to be really powerful in that first reaction. And sometimes people have that gut feeling and they don't ever change that. So what's the first thing that they see when they come to your website? How is that going to make them feel? I've talked about the importance of bio pages, especially for professionals, a lot. So I will try not to go into it in too much detail, but it is really important. That is probably the most powerful page where you can build trust with a prospect. They come and they're learning who you are and what you're all about. If you have the cookie cutter bio that everybody else has, what's your position, when you started, what were your previous career things, and oh, by the way, here's one sentence on your interests. that's a typical bio. It's going to be better than no bio at all. The imagery that you have, that headshot, probably professional headshot, that carries some weight. But that is not going to make you more trustworthy than the other person that opens up to who they are. Maybe they actually word the bio in a really interesting way. One thing I've seen that's pretty successful with prospects is did you know, or factoids about people at the end that are kind of like these really crazy facts. There's a wholesaler, a shout out to Matty D in my industry, that puts in about his grandfather and that he was a professional baseball player, and it's kind of some other interesting things. He's creating his own personal brand, but he's actually kind of letting you know what's important to him. Obviously, he wouldn't put that in his bio if it wasn't important to him, and kind of shaped who he's become. So think about what's the message that you could get across. It's really, really important in your bio to not just have it be boring. What's the thing that when I read it, I trust that person. I want to work with them. I can't not work with this person because I completely align with them and I've made that personal connection. I'm going to cover videos a little bit later, but I would say that's important on your bio, and that's a really great placement for it, and there's a whole bunch of videos that we could talk about on your bio page. But that whole environment that you're creating there on your bio is a wonderful way for people to get to know you. So, if you've had some positive press, if you've been published, whatever it might be, all these things are starting to make you look credible, which is just another way of earning trust. And that website, your bio page is almost like a mini site. Like imagine that, and test it with Google Analytics. Don't test a consultant that's up here blowing a lot of hot air, right? Figure out whatever analytics you have, is that bio page, if you have it, is it going to perform really well, and why is that? Is it getting a lot of traffic? How long do people spend on certain pages? And the bio page is usually one that they spend on. But all right, create that ecosystem around your bio page. So now maybe you put people in touch with what your social sites are, right? So if you're okay with sharing your Facebook page, LinkedIn, obviously you're probably going to share Twitter, X, whatever it might be. You start to put out who you are. When somebody goes and can kind of see the stuff that's public on those different social sites, they're getting a comfort level with who you are. You might want to actually, if it's professional use, you might have those social sites show a lot about who you are. And there are some social sites that you have to be friends with people to see all the information. But let's use Facebook as an example. So a Facebook, when you post something, it can be just to your friends, or you can add it to be public or something in between, right? So what I would consider is every once in a while put something out that is public, that you're not afraid from cybersecurity reasons, or like just letting strangers see who you are. Some of that is kind of dangerous in the personal world, but from a professional standpoint, that is what people want to see, right? They want to make that personal connection to build that trust. So I, in this article, gave an example of somebody that was so wonderful about sharing who she was. She shared family pictures, she showed pictures with her significant other, she showed all kinds of pictures with her dogs, she showed different things on her trips, and so you got to see kind of the interests that she liked, the fun that she had, her contagious smile, videos like made you happy when you saw it. It wasn't all buttoned up, it wasn't all professional. So maybe they lose a little bit of those types of videos. Maybe you lose that person that's super rigid that was looking for a certain type of person. But I would say a majority of the people that went there in this example that I put in the article, they just feel a personal connection with that person, and they're going to want to trust them. So back to, we'll talk about social networks in other videos and get into it and break things down. But back to the bio, you're linking them to your social sites. What can they see when they get there? What's public and what's not public? And make sure that public side shows who you are. Lastly, before I get off of videos, it depends on your target audience, but with just a basic thing, and you've probably heard this before, LinkedIn is more professional. So the things that you want to share there are more professional. It does not mean you can't every once in a while weave in something that is personal. So you have some big family milestone, and you let's just say you take a picture with at a family reunion and you post and say, hey, this is why I work so hard. These are the people I care about. I hope that you have a great 4th of July, let's see, whatever the picture was taken, or you have a great holiday season or whatever it might be. You might get a lot of interactions, and it'd be amazing when people start to comment on that stuff too, right? So the people in your network start to write a lot of great things. This is where actually comment marketing is big, and we'll talk about that for other reasons, but the way that people comment on your posts can actually make a connection with the prospect that goes and sees that like all these people are loving and supportive of who you are, or they're actually writing and engaging in a positive way. So if you are going to put something up that can be seen to the public, you can't control what people post, but this is something that people will see, right? Like there are things that will bubble up from comments, and that can actually be something that will add to your credibility and actually add to your trust factor. You know, you might have that college buddy that trashes you and says something. Don't be too overly concerned. It depends what the wording is there, but people get that they have friends that kind of make fun of them. If there's a comment to be flawsome, I didn't coin that, but what that means is being awesome because you have flaws. Like if someone makes fun of you, go with it and just say, hey, yeah, you really got me there, or ha ha ha, or something where you're not like just calling the person and saying, can you please take that down? That's really making my brand image look bad. There's a time and a place where you might need to make that contact or make that communication, but for overall, just kind of show who you are, and your network of who you're friends with or who you're connected with professionally is part of who you are. And that stuff can build trust too. Videos are a thing I'll do a whole nother segment on, but I have to say, if you're trying to build trust, this is where a message can get across, and it's actually a personal one-on-one communication, even though the person's just watching it, kind of through a one-way communication. But they're actually getting to know you, kind of getting a feel for who you are. Hopefully that good things are coming across for anyone that's watching this recording. But videos are super, super important if trying to build trust, because they're going to get to know you as a human being. Words can't convey the same messages that videos can when you're trying to make a human connection. Make sure that you have videos be a part of your online marketing strategy. This is something I can't say enough. Now, go back to the bio page. What are you going to put in a bio video? Why I got in this industry, what I love to do, why I like to help people. Those types of things build trust, right? Because then they're going to say, yeah, wow, that's the person I want to work with. Take some time and figure out what a video strategy would be, not just from marketing communications and things you need to push out from a fresh content standpoint, but what's your personal brand? What does that look like? Sometimes that piece is the one that you need to invest more money in to get a professional photographer or videographer to do the work for you. You might get away with having an intern or someone that is a family member or something. But again, if it's something that's important and it's going to help win over a prospect, that's probably something you want to invest some money in. Okay, an example of a video that isn't for everybody. A good client that I've had over the years created a video. It was a recording of him doing a Dancing of the Stars type of knockoff. It was a fundraiser for the Ronald McDonald House, and he put that video up. Like, just imagine, prospects seeing him dance, and them saying, "Wow, he did that." He went and did some professional training because his partner was obviously a professional, and the crowd cheering for him. And oh, by the way, next to the video, it says how much money was raised. And that is something that you can't recommend that stuff for every person, every professional. But in this person's case, he showed who he was. I think in the article, there's a picture of him jumping over the professional dancer that he was partnered with. Luckily, she didn't get hurt, but he did pretty good dancing. I think he came in first place. So I used it as an example in here of something that's just a little outside the box, right? Something that is going to make that personal connection, because someone sees a video like that, they're going to say, hey, maybe he's a goofball, right, doing the dancing, because maybe that person that's seeing the video is like, I would never do that, right? I wouldn't be brave enough to go dance in front of other people. But then they might say, hey, good for him for doing that. Good for him for raising money. That's a lot of fun. This is someone that I want to get to know me, and this is someone that I think I could trust because he's so caring about this charity that he went, probably practiced hours and hours and hours to do this big thing in front of, I don't know, I feel like it was hundreds of people. That is something that I think makes a connection, right? And so when you're building out that bio and what that environment is around just the text, think about video as something that would support your brand image and get the message across that you want to get across. In that example of Jeff that did that video, obviously you can actually click from that environment within the company to the nonprofit, and you can see some wonderful things that are written about Jeff there. And actually that is something else that can really validate who you are, right? Another website, someone that is just so happy that you've served and helped them in a philanthropic way, or something that you've gotten an award or certificate for. And that goes into my next topic is PR. Again, another topic I can do a whole bunch of videos on. But the reality is, if you have two professionals and one's in the press a lot and one's not, the basic assumption is that one is more trustworthy because they're a vetted expert. And it doesn't mean that's the case. I mean, there's shady people that have been on the news or had news segments probably throughout the whole modern era, right? But just kind of the way that we're wired, right? Like, if that, especially the more significant the press is, the more that is going to build to that person's trust. Obviously, if it's like a recording of a video, like say an interview, whether it's on TV or radio, it's important what that person says and how they're carried and the tone of the interview and all that. But make sure that you start to think about publicity as something that you should be adding to add to your first wow moment when someone's trying to trust you and want to work with you. So from a press standpoint, have a strategy about what would make that prospect really be impressed by who you are. That's nice to be impressed, but how would they actually build the trust? And what type of content would you put out there? So let's say you're in a world where you are in the press often. What could you write about? What could you be interviewed about on the radio or on TV that would actually build your credibility and your trust? So let's say you get to the point where you've been published 25 times or been in the press a significant amount of times. When you go back to your website and your environment, you don't have to always order them chronologically. There might be one that just carries more weight, and that's the one that you put in your slide or put on your homepage, put in your bio that carries a lot of weight. And that's where you need to have a strategy. And I would go into publicity with trust in mind, like what's going to help you add to your credibility and be more trustworthy. A sub-segment of PR are awards and credentials and all that type of stuff. So let's talk about credentials first. So if you have a whole bunch of titles, let's say industry licenses or designations, that adds some credibility, right? Like that person has gone through so much training, they're going to be trustworthy. I can trust them with these big decisions. But at a certain point, it starts to become alphabet soup. For me, I got my MBA. I don't have a lot of other designations or licenses. At least that person that's questioning whether I would be good to work with will know that I went to get an advanced degree, right? And I would think that maybe having MBA be something that is shown in my bio, which is going to carry more weight. Obviously, credentials, you kind of get the importance of it. I actually don't use MBA, though, in my title. Like if you look at my LinkedIn or if you look at my business card, some people put like their name and then comma MBA. Like I just don't want that to be like forced on people. I want them, if they bounced around and discovered my level of education, that's where they would find that. So you might want to put certain things in your name or after your name, I should say, on your business card, whatever it might be. You might not. You don't have to do that. If you assume that you have a designation and it's C this and 3 other letters after or 2 other letters after it, don't just assume that people know what those designations are. Or if you have a license, so in the financial services world, Series 7, right? Like, what does that mean? To a prospect, to a widow, that doesn't carry a lot of weight. Like, they know, obviously, you've got to where you are somehow. So figure out a way to make those actually carry more weight. And it's the old what's in it for me. Back to the way that you communicate to the person that's checking you out for the first time or meeting with you in the first meeting. Always put them at the center of everything. Like, when I talk or when I put out communications, what's important to them that they're going to say, yeah, this matters. Because just because we got a designation, it doesn't mean that we're a number one, so to speak. So publicity, just to summarize all that stuff, getting publicity helps. Local press versus national press is something you need to think about. Whether you want to be in the industry or outside the industry, that can matter to a certain extent. And then the other third category I think about when you're building out a PR strategy is traditional press versus non-traditional press. So think about what would resonate the most with your target audience. And maybe it's a blend. Usually if you get one thing, it's easier to get the other. So if you're in the national press, it's easy to get local press. Or if you build up enough local press, then the person in the national press will start to want to use you. Think about how you can take advantage of these things too. For some professionals, they are ranked. And so, for example, financial advisors might be ranked in Barron's or other different publications. That actually carries some weight too. I don't think prospects should put so much weight in it that that's how they make the decision based on how somebody's ranked in their state. Oh, that's the top 25th person in the state. There are ways that some people kind of game the system to make themselves look bigger or better. So I wouldn't always trust the rankings as they are, although I'm not taking away the credibility of these different ranking services. They rank a lot of different businesses and individuals, and they do an excellent job at it. But just be careful about how you use that. I'll use an example. When I'm flying somewhere and you get the magazine that sometimes they're kind of getting away from them, but the magazine that used to sit in the pocket in front of you, it would say like the best doctors in the country. Like, to me, that seemed like it was bought. Like, I wouldn't trust that person because it was something that they were touting, something that wasn't really based on facts. It was something that obviously I just felt, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I felt like they maybe paid $20,000 to get that kind of like an advertorial award. And so if you go too far with these rankings and they're not valid or they're not explained at least of how the ranking system worked and how that you got so high up in the list, be careful because it can actually backfire. One of the biggest ways to get trust is now you've got introduced from your client, especially a happy client or a strategic alliance, some center of influence, whoever it might be that could make an introduction. Hopefully people aren't giving leads out to professionals that don't deserve it. You would just assume, because if I make an introduction to somebody and that person just is terrible, that's bad on me, right? Like, my client, if I have a client and I send them to a professional and that doesn't go well, I can actually lose my client because of it, right? So think about the transfer of trust that happens from getting introduced. And then we've talked about at great lengths how to get more referrals, and I'll continue to do that. But make sure that you have a client referral strategy and strategic alliance strategy, because it's one of the best ways to get trust and to win prospects over right off the bat. I'll start to wrap up, but one of the last things I'll say with trust is communications and the frequency that you're out in front of people. If you're hidden in a room and never communicate, this is where you become not untrustworthy because they just can't see you. They don't know what you're doing. Are you out on the golf course? Are you at parties? Are you on trips all the time? I'm starting to feel like you don't care about me, and the trust starts to wane, right? So make sure that you're always proactive. One of the best times for you to be proactive is when the world is falling apart. Get in front of it and say, hey, I don't necessarily know what's going on. We're digesting this from every single angle. I want you to know that I don't want to hide on it. I'm going to communicate with you. Everything I know, I'm going to share with you as fast as I can. So just know we're paying attention to this and we care about you, and go from there. Anything that you can do to build up the personal side and make the connection and care about people. When I said earlier in the research, people choose professionals because they trust them, they like them, and they show that they care. That whole philanthropic part, the whole caring for others, especially your clients, even giving like a little gift that shows that you care really about the person. Remembering some milestone in their life, whether it's the death of a spouse or a parent or whatever it might be, all those little things build up and become elements that improve trust. So from a servicing standpoint, obviously hit the ball out of the park, but from a communication standpoint, make sure you're being very proactive, because that's going to help you in the long run. This has been another episode of Business Best. This is Mike Byrnes. Hopefully this advice is helping you. If you have a topic that you want me to cover, please reach out to me, mike@byrnesconsulting.com. That's Mike at BYRNES, byrnesconsulting.com. Thank you.